Everybody knows about the American Civil War. North versus South, anti-slavery versus pro-slavery, the Union versus the Confederacy. But how many people know about the causes of the Civil War? Everything that happens has an impact on the future, large or small. Today, we will be diving into some people, events, and places that impacted the build-up to the Civil War. This is Causes of the Civil War. We start our journey at a small log cabin in Sinking Spring Farm near Hodgenville, Kentucky. The day is February 12th, 1809. Nancy Hanks Lincoln just gave birth to a child. And to some people's surprise, this baby was not giving speeches, at least not yet, but actually crying. The baby's name was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham grew up here. Lincoln, who actually preferred to be referred to by his surname, had many jobs as he grew up. This included an Illinois captain in the Black Hawk War. He then served 4 terms as an Illinois representative in the House of Representatives for Sangamon. He was part of the Whig Party at the time. After this, he became a lawyer. He then ran for Republican Party candidate for the United States Senate from Illinois. Although he lost this election, he became widely recognized for his ability to give impeccable speeches. He was so good, he could convince you hated your favorite food. At least I hope so, because I really got to let off on the ice cream. His speeches were passionate, funny, and he was known to make references to the Constitution to support his points. He also often openly spoke out against slavery, saying it was immoral. The picture on the right is Lincoln when he was young. No, it's not just you. The only difference is the beard. Lincoln won the presidential election by an electoral college landslide. In many southern states, his name wasn't even on the ballots. Nothing could stop him, especially with that new beard. Abraham Lincoln became the 16th U.S. president. Due to his victory in the election, states in the South felt threatened. They thought that he would attempt to take away slavery, and so the secessions began. One after another, states seceded from the United States. These states formed the Confederate States of America. President Lincoln had his entire term occupied by the Civil War. During the war, Lincoln passed the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery. Once the war finally ended, Lincoln could take a sigh of relief. Unfortunately, this sigh would be his last breath. A man named John Wilkes Booth assassinated Lincoln by shooting him point blank in the back of the head. This is seen in the photo in the middle. Abraham Lincoln became the first American president to be assassinated. However, Lincoln was not the only person who played a major role in the build-up to the Civil War. A man named John Brown had a major impact on starting the Civil War. John was a white abolitionist, but he didn't just want slavery to end. He was ready to fight to end slavery, and to die to end slavery. He believed that slavery could not be ended peacefully, and required violence. He was one of the most radical abolitionists. But let's rewind a bit. John Brown was born on the 9th of May in 1800. He was born in Torrington, Connecticut. Throughout his life, Brown had many jobs. He was a jack of all trades, or I guess you could say, a John of all trades. John worked on the Underground Railroad. He was a hide seller, a sheep farmer, and a passionate abolitionist. He was also a father of 30 kids, though a few of them did die young. After John heard about the sacking of Lawrence, he decided to take action. He, along with 2 of his sons and a couple of other men, snuck around, killing some of the pro-slavery people who participated in the sacking of Lawrence. This incident would later be called the Pottawatomie Creek Massacre. After this, John Brown decided to attempt the riskiest thing an abolitionist had done yet. He planned to capture the arsenal at Harper's Ferry, hand the weapons out to slaves, and spark a large-scale slave rebellion. This plan failed, and John and the other raiders with him were pinned down at Harper's Ferry during the raid. 2 of his sons were mortally injured. Neither survived. Many other raiders were killed during the raid, and were captured and hanged. Upon these people who were hanged included John Brown himself. John was a large reason the Civil War occurred, because it really showed many abolitionists that to truly end slavery, violence might be necessary. But there were many other causes of the Civil War, and this isn't limited to people. There were plenty of events that caused the Civil War too. One of these included the Battle of Fort Sumter. Now, this is a bit more complicated. The Battle of Fort Sumter is considered the start of the Civil War. So although it isn't exactly leading up to the Civil War, it is definitely a cause of the war. Fort Sumter was a fort on a small island in South Carolina. You can see in the top left image. It was occupied by American soldiers. When South Carolina seceded, they believed that the fort was theirs. They demanded the American soldiers leave. They refused. So the Confederates fired their cannons at the fort. Look at the bottom left image. That was the attack on Fort Sumter from the Confederates' point of view. The soldiers in the fort had a major problem. They were low on everything. Troops, ammunition, gunpowder, small arms, food, and water. The Confederates greatly outnumbered and outgunned the Union soldiers. Lincoln needed to supply the fort with more resources, but he didn't want this to seem like an attack. You see, Lincoln was still holding out hope to keep the Union as a whole. He didn't want war. So Lincoln decided he would send a ship with only necessary supplies, such as food and water. However, the Confederates fired upon the ship. This battle lasted about 34 hours until the soldiers in the fort surrendered. There were actually no casualties during the battle. However, while surrendering, a gun exploded, killing 2 Union soldiers. The Confederates captured the fort, marking the end of the first battle in the American Civil War. Another military interaction that caused the Civil War was the Mexican-American War. The Mexican-American War began on April 25th, 1846. After the Texas Revolution, Texas joined the U.S. Mexico attempted to purchase the disputed territory, and the U.S. sent 80 troops into the disputed territory. Mexico saw this as an attack, so they fired upon them. America had many great generals at the time, including Zachary Taylor and Winfield Scott. I guess Winfield's parents named him well, since he would go on to win many battles on the field. Ha 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 ha. Alright, I'll stop. The president at the time was James K. Polk. Along with the Americans was the new California Republic. The war ended in an American victory on February 12, 1848. Land that was freed from Mexico is modern-day Oklahoma, Arizona, California, New Mexico, and part of Texas. After the war, California wanted to join the U.S., but there was an issue. The Missouri Compromise line went right through the middle of California. So how do you decide if California is a free state or a slave state? This was a question that sparked more issues in the U.S., leading to the outbreak of the Civil War. During the Mexican-American War, California declared itself its own nation, called the New California Republic. The flag can be seen in the image on the left. After assisting America in the war, California decided it wanted to join the U.S., but the line determined in the Missouri Compromise runs straight through the middle of California. This caused a lot of issues with how to decide on whether it would become a free state or a slave state. At this time, also, gold was found in a lake in California in 1848. This caused a large influx of settlers from around the world, especially in 1849. These settlers were known as the 49ers. Now, hold on a sec. That name sounds familiar. Oh, right. The San Francisco 49ers, the football team. Well, this is actually where that name came from. The issue was resolved with the new compromise, the Compromise of 1850. This compromise allowed California to enter as a free state, but a lot of pro-slavery laws were enforced in the U.S. to keep a balance, such as the Fugitive Slave Act. These laws caused more anger in the North, pushing the country closer to the Civil War. Today, we have discussed many things that pushed the country ever closer to the Civil War. It was a bloody war, but the Union came out on top, abolishing slavery and reuniting the country as a whole. For the next episode, we will be looking into the Civil War itself, so stay tuned for that. But for now, thank you for listening, and have a fine rest of your day.